When we talk about alternate, for lack of a better word, cancer therapies,
Sure.
what are some of the things that you employ that you have found success with?
Okay. Well, I think the most important things with somebody who has cancer, and this would be true probably equally for almost all neurological diseases. Heart disease, different in some ways, because heart disease is not necessarily as related to poisons as cancer and neurological diseases are related. So there's no particular order to these. So I'm not, if I say 1, 2, 3, it's not do this one first, that one second. So one is diet. We have to get rid of all the foods that we know are causing a problem. And that would be a 2-hour lecture. But basically, the things that we know feed cancer cells. The Nobel Prize for Medicine was won by Otto Warburg decades ago, showing that the cancer is a sugar metabolic cell, basically. And so if you give the body a food that either is sugar or rapidly is converted into sugar, you are feeding the cancer tumors. The doctors know this, but they don't know it. One of the most used and most accurate tests to find other tumors in the human body is positron emission tomography. It's called a PET scan, PET scan. So what they do is they inject the patient with radio-labeled glucose. They take glucose, which is blood sugar, and they make it radioactive, and they inject it into the cancer patient. And they know that every tumor that already is a tumor and needs its own blood supply will go, they don't use these words, oh, my favorite food, and grab it up, and now they're going to glow on the tomograph machine because you made them radioactive. Now, where the disconnect is, that the same doctor doesn't say, so don't you dare eat anything that's sweet, and don't you dare eat anything that has starch or alcohol in it, because the body turns them right into sugar, because they will also feed the cancer, and we don't want to make the cancer happy except for this quick test to see where they are. They don't seem to understand that. So I'm not sure, I used to say doctors were stupid. I stopped saying that a long time ago. Stupidity is an IQ level, and you can't have a low IQ and get through medical school. You can be inordinately ignorant, because ignorance is just not knowing what we don't know. But you can't be stupid. That's IQ. So they're not stupid. They're just ignorant. So we want to reduce as much as somebody can those things that are going to feed the cancer. Now we want to bring it, so in other words, their ice creams are out, and their muffins are out, and their cakes and cookies are out, and their whole grains are out, and their popcorns are out. Those are all things that make the cancer happy. We want to make the immune system happy and the cancer upset. Next thing was the diet portion is you want to bring in all the foods as concentrated as possible, and we usually call that nutrient density. The most nutrient-dense foods are actually animal proteins. But we can have other ways to make foods much more nutrient-dense. So, for example, if you take a bunch of vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, whatever, and we juice them, even though we're taking all the fiber and throwing it out, fiber is hard for people to digest, especially with cancer. So we've taken out what the body can't use. I mean, it's not a nutrient. Fiber is not a nutrient. And therefore, what's left is more nutrient dense. So a lot of the various different anti-cancer programs have vegetable juices. I'm against the use of fruit juices. I don't want them to put an apple in there, because the only thing that makes the apple a better fruit is the fact that the pectin and the fibers and everything are slowing down the conversion into sugar. We're throwing out all the fiber, and now we're giving you apple water, which is basically sugar water with an apple flavor. So we want lots of good nutrients, non-starchy vegetables, good quality, grass-fed, range-fed, organic, etc., and all the stuff that's out that's bad. So diet, big area. Next big area is where else are poisons coming into your body. So they have to look at their life. And in my office, I go over all of this. My initial consultation is 3 to 5 hours, because that's how long it takes me to cover it. And they've already watched a 3-hour video on healthy eating that I loaned them, because I can't fit another 3 hours into that 3 to 5 hours. So it's really like 8 or 9 hours. So we have to take a look at what's the toothpaste they're using, because it's proven that fluoride causes cancer. That's very well known. The public doesn't know it. And it's also proven that fluoridating water does not reduce tooth decay. But the public doesn't know that either. The scientists know it, the doctors don't, and the dentists don't. So we got to pull out the fluoride. Chlorine is a very well-known cancer-causing agent. So I want to make sure that what they're bathing in and drinking doesn't have chlorine in it anymore. And then we've got a whole bunch of things that we don't have unbelievable undeniable evidence of, but that we think are bad. And that includes methyl and propylparaben, sodium lauryl sulfate, polyethylene glycol, which is a glycol similar to what we use in antifreeze, but it's in your cosmetics. So any of those that we can pull out. So I scour the planet, going to all the different conferences where products are discussed, to find non-toxic shampoos, non-toxic cream rinses, non-toxic soaps, both bar and liquid, non-toxic toothpastes, non-toxic body lotions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I want everybody to convert what they've been using, and I don't care if they buy it from me or where they buy it from, but this is the brand name that I found, and this is the name of the product, and that's what I want you to use, because we need less poisons coming into the body. Now we've got to start getting poisons that are already in the body out. So there are two things that have to be done to do that, and then that encompasses the most important four things for cancer. Number one is we have to get your detox channels working. If somebody's liver and somebody's kidneys, although I have some patients that only have one, so then it would be kidney, are working as well as they're supposed to, your likelihood of getting cancer is much less. Because all the poisons that we're exposed to coming out of your sprays that they've put on the upholstery to make it less likely to catch fire in the event of a fire, to make it more stain retardant, the outgassing that comes out of memory foam mattresses, the formaldehyde that comes out of the adhesive on your carpeting, and this poison's everywhere. But if our liver and our kidneys were working even within 20% of optimal, then they'd be doing a pretty good job of getting a lot of that out, which would be great. But they're not. And if you talk to a renal specialist, renal is kidney function, or a hepatic specialist, hepatic function is liver function, and the ones that are really, really good, if you said, you're a specialist in this area, doc, you're a hepatic specialist, you work only on liver, how much below optimal would the liver have to be functioning in a human before the tests that we look at for blood tests, used to be SGOT, SGPT, now it's ALT, AST. How much below optimal would the liver have to be before those tests went out of the range that is considered normal on the lab test? And the ones that really know what's going on would say, well, we're not sure, but probably it would have to be 60 to 70% below optimal before it would go out of range. And then if you asked a renal specialist the same thing about kidney function, we're talking about BUN, creatinine, and estimated glomerular filtration rate, EGFR, how much would they have to be below optimal? The ones that really know would say, 60 to 70% below optimal before those show that there's a problem. So the doctor doesn't get to know, your kidney function is not as good as it should be, your liver function is not as good as it should be, until it's 60 to 70% not as good as it should be. And so those organs aren't doing as well as they should. So I always concentrate on supporting liver function and supporting kidney function with products from around the world, different ones with different people depending on what's going on. And then, after we get those two organs working well, those are our main detox channels. If you have a gigantic container filled with poisons, and there's a little spigot on the bottom of that container, and the spigot is not working, and somebody says, empty the container, you can't do it. Well, somebody says, well, but I don't know how to do anything about the spigot. Empty it anyway. So some engineer comes over and welds a thing on the top, puts a container of compressed gas on there, and forces gas in there and pushes on it, and it bursts the spigot. The spigot goes flying across the room, or maybe the entire vat splits, and we get all the stuff out. But the container's burst. We're the container. So we have to get the liver and the kidneys working correctly. We don't want to hurt them further. You could actually say the liver and the kidneys are that spigot. Okay. And we don't want the spigot breaking and shooting across the room, because if we overload even further an already jeopardized liver and kidney function, we'll probably kill the person faster. So first we get those two organs working really, really well with any of a number of different things. A procedure that helps that the most in the Gerson therapy, for example, is something that most people go, oh my God, you must be kidding, called coffee enemas. And that's one of the reasons I believe that Gerson's therapy works, even though there are some things in Gerson's diet that I would totally change, because it's a phenomenal detox agent which pulls directly out from the bile and the liver and the gallbladder without forcing it through the liver and the kidneys, which would overload them. So one thing would be coffee enemas. So we do all those things. Now we have to start removing poisons from our mesenchyme, from our intercellular spaces, from the cells in the body. We can't do that before. We'll overload those two and make you feel worse, and we'll get what's called a detox reaction, a healing crisis, or the technical word is a Herxheimer reaction. So now we've gotten those two working well. Now we use all sorts of different substances, and they include healing clays and zeolites and activated charcoal and homeopathics and different herbal preparations to help the body to start, and more water, and maybe a higher pH water like a 7, 7.5, or 8. I don't like to go too much off of that. We might hurt something. And those help the body to go into a detox mode, so to speak, without overloading those two spigots,
Sure.
the liver and the kidneys. And so those are all the different things that have to be done, and we do them all with what we call preventive patients at whatever rate they want to.
Mm-hmm.
We do them all with cancer patients as quickly as we can without hurting the person, because we're trying to turn around a deadly disease. And the question is, do they have the gumption, the stick-to-itiveness, the ability, the support structure sometimes of other different people, because in many cases their family are saying, "You're doing what? You're juicing, you're eating organic food, you're eating grass-fed beef, you're doing coffee enemas instead of chemotherapy? What are you, an idiot?" And so sometimes they end up having more stress,
Sure.
which depresses our immune function, because what they have decided after doing more investigation than the person that's yelling at them, that they don't want to do that, or they want to do both, or whatever. And so we need to learn a lot, and we need to find some people around you for support, even if it's not the people that should be supporting you, that are helping you do things.